give them this drug. Now, just you don't have to write this down, but just sort of listen to this for a second. When you take this drug and it gets to a blood level in your blood, if you drink alcohol, it will interact with that chemical in your blood and make you super sick to your stomach. Really super sick. Horribly ill. Let me ask you, have you guys ever been to a restaurant and gotten sick afterward from eating at that restaurant? Anybody? Will you eat at that restaurant anymore? Now, if you go, you probably won't order, you may order something else, but you're not going to order what made you sick because you have developed a what? Aversion to that restaurant. Okay, because if I gave you a $20 bill right now and said, go eat at that restaurant and buy that meal, would you do it? No. Would you take my $20? Yeah. You go somewhere else and buy something else, but you wouldn't go there. So I couldn't even pay you to eat there, could I? Well, we want the alcoholic to have that same reaction to alcohol. In other words, we couldn't even pay him to what? Drink. So if you couldn't even pay an alcoholic to drink, I think that's pretty much a cure. Now, the only problem with this drug is it works in theory better than it works in reality. Or else we'd have had a cure for alcoholism years ago. So it really doesn't work as well as they say it does. But you still need to know how it's supposed to work and whatnot. So the thing the boards wants to know is how long does it take to get into their system and how long does it take to get out of their system? In other words, what's the onset and duration of its effectiveness? And that answer is 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So how long do they have to be on the drug before it starts to work?
2 weeks.
And how long do they have to be off the drug before they can safely drink again? 2 weeks. So usually the way it happens is doctor prescribes Antabuse. You sort of have to live sort of like a transition, like a recovery place, a transition home, where for 2 weeks they make sure you take the pills. And then you're let out into the community. And it will work. And every time you drink, you'll get deathly ill. So, but if you decide you want to drink at a high school reunion, when do you have to stop taking your Antabuse?
2 weeks before.
2 weeks before the reunion, or you're not going to be able to do it. All right, now, number 3, patient teaching. Teach these patients to avoid all forms of alcohol, to avoid nausea, vomiting, and possibly death. Now, death isn't what we're going for. That would cure the problem, but it's not what we're going for. Now, do you suppose you have to teach an alcoholic, hey, let me talk. Let me tell you what has alcohol in it. Whiskey does, wine does, beer does, tequila. They know that. What you have to teach them that they have to avoid is stuff that they wouldn't think that they have to avoid that they do. And number 1, mouthwash. They need to avoid mouthwash. Even if they swish and spit, they're still going to get sick. Number 2, aftershaves. Even if they put it on topically, they're going to get nauseated. Now, they won't get violently ill from that, but it will make them nauseated. Perfumes and colognes should not be used. Same reason. Insect repellents, like mosquito sprays, off, deep woods, cutter, those are all bad. They'll make you sick. Any over-the-counter that ends in the word elixir, E-L-I-X-I-R. Because what do all elixirs have in them? Alcohol. Dimetapp elixir, Robitussin elixir, Dayquil elixir, NyQuil elixir, Tylenol PM elixir, Benadryl elixir. Alcohol-based hand sanitizers. In Greene County, about 6 months ago, we had our first case of alcohol hand sanitizer poisoning. This alcoholic got into Bob Evans and drank every single bottle of hand sanitizer he could get his hands on to keep the shakes away. Because he knew it had alcohol in it. In fact, I've heard that they've taken it out of the prison systems because guys are learning how to distill it and sell it. Another thing they're not allowed to have is uncooked icings. Remember those uncooked, those no-bake icings that you make? Because what do no-bake icings have in it? Vanilla extract, which is powerful. That's Granny's way of getting.
Wow. I didn't know that.
All right, and remember this though. Here's the one that everybody gets suckered in on. Do not pick the red wine vinaigrette. They can have the red wine. Why are they trying to sucker you in on there? Wine. Do you see what I'm saying? And you go, oh, wine. They can have red wine vinaigrette. They just can't have the cupcake with the unbaked icing on it. Okay. Okay, is that all the blanks filled in there, guys? Okay. Now let's talk about overdoses and withdrawals. Bad news. You got to know all your drugs, all the overdoses, and all the withdrawals. Good news. You only have to answer 2 questions to get them all correct. It's an easy way of knowing them. So here we go. Every abused drug, did I say every drug? Every abused drug is either an upper or a downer. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Why are drugs that are not uppers nor downers, why are they not abused?
Because it doesn't.
They don't do anything. Right? Although there is an exception. What is the number 1 most abused class of drug that's not an upper or a downer? Laxatives in the elderly. The elderly abuse laxatives. But that isn't upper or downer. That's inner or outer, I guess. I don't know. But every abused drug is an upper or a downer. Correct? Okay. Have you ever had anybody come up to you on the street and say, hey, want to buy some Nexium? They're not selling that on the street. Because it's not an upper or a downer. So, letter A. Do you see in the box, letter A? When you get an overdose or withdrawal question, what's the very first question out of your mouth? Is the drug an upper or a downer? That's the very first thing you must establish. That is the first step you take in getting the question correct. Now, let's talk about uppers versus downers. The names of the uppers are caffeine, cocaine, PCP/LSD. What are those? PCP, LSD, what are those called? Psychedelic hallucinogens. Sounds like up to me. And then another class are the methamphetamines. METH amphetamines. Methamphetamines. Crystal meth, all that stuff that you buy at the grocery. You know, you buy the Sudafed, all the decongestants, and you cook it down. That's the upper meth. New that you're going to have to know is Adderall, which is the ADD drug, the attention deficit drug. And a lot of kids with ADD are selling their Adderall to their friends at school rather than taking it. ADD is the first 3 letters of Adderall. Okay. But that's another upper, and that's going to be tested probably starting April 1. It's going to be a new one. Now, that's only 5 drugs: caffeine, cocaine, PCP, LSD, methamphetamines, and Adderall. Those are uppers. Well, what do you think the signs and symptoms are when you're on an upper? Things go up because you're on an upper. Figure that out. You know, uppers make you go up. You know, that's pretty hard to remember. So what are they going to have? Give me some signs and symptoms. Principles.
Euphoria.
Euphoria. Tachycardia. Restlessness. Irritability. Bowels. What are you gonna? What's the bowel status going to be? Borborygmi, diarrhea. What are the reflexes going to be? What numbers? 3 and 4. Flaccid or spastic? Spastic. Are they going to respiratorily arrest or seize? Should you have a suction machine or an ambu bag? Are you getting this idea? Uppers make things go up because they are uppers. All right? Downers. What are the names of the downers? Am I going to memorize anything? No. Why? Everything that's not an upper is a, because every abused drug is either an
Upper.
or a,
Down.
there's no such thing as a tweener. So you can't get that. Now if they want a tweener effect, what do they take? An upper and a downer together, but there's no one drug that gives you a tween effect. Now there are how many uppers? 5. You know how many downers there are? 135. Dilaudid, MS-Contin, morphine sulfate, codeine, Demerol, fentanyl, Wabane, Nubane, Thorazine, Stelazine, Fluphenazine, Piperazine, Chlorpromazine, Prolixin, Ativan, Xanax, Valium, Librium, phenobarbital, pentobarbital, secabarbital, heroin, hashish, marijuana, alcohol. Do you know what I mean? It's all what? Downers because it's not an upper. So only memorize. I hate lists, right? But if we can memorize a short one and know everything else is a, that seems like some payoff for me. So what do downers make you do? Go what direction? Because they are downers. So what are you going to see there? Lethargic. Everything that we said, just flip it. And what's going to be the big danger? Respiratory
Depression.
arrest. Depression and leading to arrest. What do you think about this? Your patient is high on heroin. No, high on cocaine. What's critically important to assess? And one of the answers is B, which says making sure that the respiratory rate is above 12. What do you think? He's high on cocaine. Is a critical measurement making sure that the respiratory rate is above 12? No, why?
It's going to be high.
There's no way he's going to even be close to 12. You got the wrong patient, but they're trying to sucker you into thinking, oh, respiratory rate. No, you know what I mean? Yeah, respiratory rate's important, but not in this patient because this patient wouldn't have a respiratory arrest because they're high on an upper, which makes everything go up. You'd rather check their reflexes. Do you see what I'm saying? And we go, oh, ABCs. Could you hear that? Airway, oh, respiratory rate less than 12. Like, ABCs is not a great rule, guys. If you've been living by ABCs, you've been shortchanged for a very long time. It's a very poor rule. I will show you better rules than ABCs. ABCs is a vast oversimplification. How many have used ABCs to get answers? How many have used ABCs? How many have gotten about as many right using it as you get wrong using it? How many you get quite a bit wrong using it? How many get it all right when you use it? Are you understand? How many would say ABCs doesn't really work that well for me? It doesn't. It should, because it doesn't. Okay. It's a vast oversimplification, but we'll get to that later. All right. B. You see where we're at, B? After you know whether the drug is an upper or a downer, the second thing you ask yourself is, are they talking about overdose or withdrawal? Because they're opposites, and you got to know which one you're talking about. You have to pay attention. Is the question talking about overdose, which is too much, or withdrawal, which is not enough? If you don't pay attention to that, you will miss the question. So what's the first thing you have to pay attention to in a drug overdose question? Is the drug an up or a downer? What's the second thing you have to pay attention to?
Overdose.
Overdose or withdrawal. Once you do those, you've got your answer. Your answer is so simple, it's pathetic. Let's look how it works. Under letter B, do you see where it says overdose or intoxication? Do you see that? You have what? Too much. Now put it together. Put the answers to the two questions you asked together, and you get your answer for the question. In other words, if they say overdosed on an upper, you have too much what? Upper, and everything goes up. So you're going to pick those up things because you have too much upper. But what if they say downer and intoxication? In that case, you have too much downer, which makes everything go down, and it's going to go the opposite of what the other one did. Do you see the point here? However, what if they talk about withdrawal? In withdrawal, you don't have enough. You have too little. Well, let's put it together. If you have withdrawal, downer, you don't have enough downer. If you don't have enough downer, everything goes... No, okay, I'm doing it backwards. Yeah, on your page it says you don't have enough upper, right? Too little. So too little upper makes everything go down, and then too little downer or not enough downer makes everything go up. Does everybody see the logic in that? So upper overdose looks like what other situation? Upper overdose looks like what other? Downer withdrawal. And downer overdose looks like upper withdrawal. So in what two situations would respiratory depression and arrest be your highest priority? In which two situations would respiratory arrest and depression be your highest priority? Downer, overdose, and upper withdrawal. Exactly. Which two would seizure be your biggest risk? Upper overdose and downer withdrawal. Do you see what I'm talking about? So what's the first question you ask yourself? Up or down. Second question, overdose or withdrawal. Too much or not enough. Put it together. Just pick the obvious answer. Let me show you how I want you to work this. Squad calls you and says they're bringing in a patient, they're 10 minutes out, he's an overdose on cocaine. What would you expect to see? Select all that apply. Person's overdosed on cocaine. It's coming into your ED. What would you expect to see? Select all that apply. What's your first question? Up or down? The answer is upper. Second question. Overdose or withdrawal. In this case, you have what? Which is putting two and two together. Too much upper. Right? So, answer your question. And remember, this is a central nervous system drug, not an autonomic. Talk to your buddy. See what they say.
Yeah, but wouldn't it, reflexes deal with the spinal cord?
No. Yeah, they still do.
They deal with the spinal cord.
Yeah. Still seeing it. What do you say, Borderline was?
Border. It's hyperactive reflex.
Okay, how many did you
Valve cells.
select?
4.
You should have selected 4. Okay? So, first task, cocainazine.
Upper.
Overdose means too much. You got too much upper, everything's going to go what direction? So draw your arrow up. Then go hunt. What about irritability?
Yes.
Plus 4 reflexes.
Yes.
Respiration less than 12.
No.
Difficult to arouse.
No.
More breathing.
Yes.
Increased temp.
Yes.
You're correct. Those 4. You're caring for a client who's withdrawing from cocaine. What are you going to answer? The opposite. Now you're going to pick respirations under 12 and difficult to arouse. They start doing that on you, you start moving. They need some Narcan. Okay. Are you seeing the idea? So do you have to memorize all these drugs? No. Turn the page. Let's talk about drug abuse in the newborn, or drug addiction in the newborn. This is a real hot topic because we have a lot of babies born nowadays to addicted moms. Always assume, here's the blanks, always assume intoxication, not withdrawal at birth. Always assume intoxication, not withdrawal at birth. So if they say you have a baby at birth or in the first 24 hours, what would you assume the baby is in? Intoxicated. After 24 hours after birth, you'd assume he's in what? Withdrawal. So how old does the baby have to be before you go withdrawal? 24 hours. Now how do you work this? Well, what about this question? You're caring for an infant born to a Quaalude, that dates me, addicted mom. Nobody uses ludes anymore. A Quaalude addicted mom. 24 hours after birth, select all that apply. Okay, so you got a Quaalude addicted mom. You're caring for this infant 24 hours after the baby's been born. Select all that apply. Difficult to console. Low core body temp. Exaggerated startle reflex. Respiratory depression. And seizure risk. Talk to your buddy.
So that's going to
Quaalude's
be
down, all right.
up. Body temperature down. Saturated. Startle reflexes. Down.
Why'd you say
Seizure
start
risk.
Why'd you say start
So that's a down.
Hours.
And you're in withdrawal.
Many things that go down.
Low temperature and respiratory depression.
That last one says shrill, high-pitched cry. How many did you select? You should have selected 3. Okay, so Quaaludes, what are they?
Downer.
How do you know they're downers?
They're not
It's not on the upper list. It's not caffeine, not cocaine, not PCP, LSD, or Adderall, or methamphetamines. You don't know what it, how many didn't know what it was? What should you have said? Downer. When you don't know what it is, pick downer. You got 100 to 1 chance of being right. I mean, 99 in 100 chance of being right. So you would say this is a downer, and the baby is what?
Withdrawal.
Withdrawing. This has been 24 hours, so he's starting into withdrawal. So he doesn't have enough downer, so everything's going to go up. So, difficult to consult. Yes, oh, hey, there is 4. I'm sorry, I blew it. There's 1. Okay, low core body temp. No. Exaggerated startle. Yes. Respiratory depression. No. Seizure risk. Yes. Shrill, high-pitched cry. Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't. I wasn't thinking. Now, how many of you are really good at Quaalude newborn situations? How many thought you were? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not that hard. In fact, boards doesn't really expect you to know this. They just want to see if you know some what? Principles that central nervous system depressants 24 hours after birth make the baby go the opposite way. Does that make sense? And they'll pick these things and you're going, oh, I don't know Quaaludes. Oh, I don't know Quaaludes. Oh, I don't know what Quaaludes. Shut up and answer the question. If you don't know Quaaludes, you should know the answer. It's a downer. And then go with it. Because that's what the good test takers are doing. They're putting their money on the best bets. And that ain't the Colts. Okay, alcohol withdrawal syndrome versus delirium tremens. Alcohol withdrawal syndrome versus delirium tremens. You have to know the differences between them. They're not the same. Sometimes people think DTs, delirium tremens, is alcohol withdrawal syndrome. No, they're totally different things. When board says alcohol withdrawal, they mean you're withdrawing from alcohol. When they say delirium tremens, you're in delirium tremens. They are very different. Do not think they're the same. Letter A. Every alcoholic goes through alcohol withdrawal. They all do 24 hours after they stop drinking. So when an alcoholic stops drinking alcohol, within 24 hours, they will all go into withdrawal syndrome. Every single one of them. However, only a minority get delirium tremens. You don't have to know the percentage. It's under 20%. By the way, when do you go into delirium tremens after you stop drinking? Do you know what time frame? 72 hours. So what always comes first? Alcohol withdrawal within 24. Then a couple of days after that, you go into DTs. Here's a statement. You do not have to write this down, but if you understand this statement, then you're good to go. You understand what I said. Alcohol withdrawal syndrome always precedes delirium tremens. However, delirium tremens does not always follow alcohol withdrawal syndrome. You got that? Okay. So if you have DTs, you had what?
Alcohol withdrawal.
But just because you have alcohol withdrawal doesn't mean you're going to get DTs.
What was the second part of that? So alcohol withdrawal syndrome always
Precedes delirium tremens, but delirium tremens does not always follow alcohol withdrawal syndrome. Okay, next difference, letter B. AWS.